with his face lit up. He has white hair now, but he is erect and strong. Undimmed eyes, 120-year-old Moses stood before his people. True, they had criticized him. True, they had been skeptical about what he had to say. But now, all listened. He talked with them about the past and of the future. They had not been born or were two children not old enough to understand when the law was given on Mount Sinai. The time prior to Moses' death and before entering Canaan. He reminds them of the covenant. They are to be special upholders of God's law. He goes over the mistakes of their parents, who are now all dead. And in the middle of all these chapters and words, one verse, this verse of 33 words, stands out. A special verse. The secret things belong unto the Lord, our God. But those things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever, that we may do the words of this law. I want to question for a moment this morning why these words were spoken. Why these words are included in the Holy Writ that's passed down to us. Now, these people were just like us in two specific ways. Number one, the test that they now faced was not over service of the past, but over the arena of Canaan. And being true to their faith, to pass it on to future generations to come. That was their task. The test for us now is to be co-workers with Christ in giving to new generations within the church and without the church the invite to spread His message of truth. So that we are like them. The same challenge they had, we had. The same test. And then the second way they are like us is the desire to find out the secret things. We have a chief common characteristics with them to unlock mysteries, to find the secrets. Every child, as soon as they're old enough, sometimes before they're old enough, we think they begin to talk. And as soon as they're old enough, the continual questions of who, what, why, how, where, when, how many, why. The same questions that we are later trained into to function in communication classes as well as being essential to any story or any solving of facts. Fathers, mothers, grandparents, never say no to a child when they keep asking questions. Don't say, don't bother me. We are here to be bothered. This world is here to be bothered. We are to bother them by the questions that we ask. God's whole system of education is based on the curiosity of a little child and the answering of their questions. Inspiration tells us that the first lesson to be given to a child is that God is their Father. The verse says that the secret things belong unto the Lord our God. It is only natural that we seek these secret things, but there's a limit, there's a bounds. That's not always specified, that's not always satisfied. Even the angels were not in on the plan of salvation, only the Father and the Son. So the first part of the text deals with the secret things that belong to God. We often make a twofold mistake relating to secret things. It's just us. That's the way we function. Number one, we rebel against the secret. We're not comfortable with not knowing something. We're not comfortable with being in the dark, and so we rebel against the secret thing. Or more deadly and vital is, secondly, we deny that there's anything beyond that which is revealed. We know it all. So relating to secret things, we are uncomfortable at not knowing the secret, and we don't want to admit that there's something that we don't know. And it is against this twofold danger that this text guards. So let's look at the text. First, the secret belongs to God. The revealed belongs to us and our children. Why? It says that we may do all the works of this law. Now, in order to understand the text, let's go to something that's, shall we say, familiar with us. These Hebrews and Moses certainly not familiar with it. It was not really revealed to them yet. Electricity would be the word. How is this building lighted? Not by candles, not by torches, and certainly not by kerosene lanterns, but by electric lights. How did we come to have these electric lights that so beautifully, in just the right texture, delight our worship service? They have been developed. Someone studied what we do. Someone studied that which had been revealed. Someone flew a kite. Someone blew up a glass bulb. Someone set about to discover the laws behind that which was revealed. And discovering those laws, they set out obeying them and teaching them, and thus you have Edison and the light bulb. Could I ask you today, where's the most electricity? Here or in some remote jungle? There's an equal amount everywhere. It's just more developed in some places. All revealed things have a part to them that they have laws. Obey that which is revealed and profit. Disobey and you pay the consequences. Fool around with electricity and you get the short of it. I once had a cat named Tiger who was nearly electrocuted. It was during the time that I was reading heavily, making the decision to become an Adventist. Tiger was my constant companion as I read and I studied. And when I came home, Tiger always greeted me. I first gave him a saucer of milk, and then I read week after week with Tiger cuddled up next to me. Now, Tiger was a kitten who always was a kitten who never became a cat. He never settled down. I put a small beaded brass link chain around his neck. You know the type that you have on the end of a light bulb and you pull it and turn it on and off? I put one of those around his neck and he loved it. If he got separated from it, he would bring it back to me to put it on him again. One morning I put a little milk in his saucer. And being short of milk that day, I added a cup of grapefruit juice. Tiger lapped up about 6 mouthfuls. Suddenly stopped, stood upright on his hind legs, shook himself briskly, started running around in circles and swiftly around the room. And suddenly, there was a pop and a puff of smoke. The lights blinked. Tiger rolled across the floor to my feet and leaped into my lap. The chain was still dangling loosely around his neck with a black 2-inch section and a distinct smell of smoke. The toaster had been loosely plugged into the wall, and the chain had caught and crossed above both prongs of the toaster. Tiger, thereafter, avoided that wall, approached the milk saucer cautiously, and for some reason no longer liked his chain. But Tiger made no progress toward understanding electricity or applying its principles. He could never use his experience to understand and profit by and obey and expand the laws of electricity. He couldn't do that. We are of a higher caliber. We can. We can take that which has been revealed to us, obey its laws, and thus have a better life on this planet. We regard Benjamin Franklin as the inventor of electricity. And yet the Greeks discovered 2,000 years ago static electricity. It was there revealed, still to be discovered, developed, and applied. Benjamin Franklin's laws amplified. Their contribution, in a nutshell, were the positive and the negative poles. Yet, a detailed, tedious study, a kite, in the year 1752, made out of a large silk handkerchief to withstand the rain and the wind. A thin 6-inch wire attached to the top, the peak of it. A roll of string, a key attached to the end of the string, and a shed in an open field. From the kite, he flew the kite from the doorway of the shed. He had to remain dry. He had to stay inside, making sure the string didn't touch the shed, and wait for a thunderstorm. Eventually, Franklin noticed the loose threads on the string began to quiver and pop out. The key moved. He pressed a knuckle against the string, and it had a noticed effect upon the key. The experiment was over. The discovery had been made. Benjamin Franklin had, in effect, discovered electricity. But he then proceeded to another experiment that perhaps you're familiar with and perhaps you're not. Let's share it together. He proceeded to the experiment of the bells. He placed an iron rod 9 inches tall on the top of his house. Another iron stake into the ground. And from the iron rod atop his house, he ran a wire through the house, out of the house, to the iron stake in the ground, in effect, the lightning rod. Franklin had developed a way to attract lightning to his house, to bring the lightning through his house and out of his house to the stake in the ground. Now, he encased the wire in a glass tube extending from the roof of his house into the stairway in the middle of his house. He then attached the wire to a rod in the stairway, and he put a 6-inch wire to the left. He attached a bell to each end of the wire. Both wires were encased in glass tubes with the bell hanging from each end. Now, from the center between the two bells, he put another wire and a silk string hanging from it. And to the bottom of the silk string, he attached a small brass ball hanging there between the bells. When lightning struck the rod on the roof and came down the rod to the wire, to the two bells, down to the string, to the hanging brass ball, lightning would cause the brass ball to swing back and forth, causing the two bells to ring. One night, Franklin was awakened by loud cracks. He got up, and the brass ball was not vibrating from one bell to the other. It was staying put. Fire cracked inside of his house. Fire passed from one bell to another in large cracks of sound. There was a dense white stream of fire going out to the edges where each bell were the width of a man's finger. It lighted up the whole stairway. The light was so bright that he said you could pick out a pin laying on the floor in the dark of night in his house. Franklin's wife, Deborah, became so frustrated from the noise and the lights that she wrote Ben when he was in London and asked him how to disconnect the darn thing. Over 100 years later, an Ohio native, Thomas Edison, and his associates worked on 3,000 different theories to make a lamp, a light from electricity. They used electricity to heat a strip of metal, a filament. The filament would be, when you see a light bulb, well, the newer light bulbs you can't, but in the older light bulbs, you can see that thin wire within it. That's the filament. Until it got hot enough, he would heat it with electricity until it got hot enough to glow. There were existing arch lamps at that time. Cleveland, Ohio had a street lamp that way. But it was too bright for a house. So he wanted to be able to light up a small room in a home, in a house. He took his filament and he enclosed it in a glass vacuum bulb. The reason he put it in the bulb is because he had to keep the oxygen away from it, because oxygen would spring to fire and feed the fire. He had his own glass blowing shop, and he worked on a low-powered way that he could take that which had been revealed and make something of it. In 1879, he had one that would, but it worked, but it would burn out in a few hours. They worked with over 6,000 materials, searching for the right material for the filament. They even used tungsten, which is what we have in light bulbs today, but they didn't have the equipment to use it at that time. They worked with cotton. They took that filament inside the light bulb and made it out of cotton, and it worked. But it burned out. He gave off a soft, warm glow, but it burned out after 15 hours. Finally, in 1879, they found the answer: Japanese bamboo. It lasted 1,500 hours, and the light bulb was born. Later, Whitney would figure out a way that they could solve the problem that when the light bulb was burning, the smoke that came out would smoke up the bulb. He figured out a way to get a filament that would change that. That electricity is important to all of us. Who would want to be without it? I was raised in a home with no electricity. Okay? My grandmother, when you speak of the good old days, says you can have them. Okay? It's interesting how in those years, when Franklin and his team, when Edison and his team brought electricity to the light bulb, you might say they lit up our world. In those same years, groups of Christians began deep, detailed study of the Scriptures. They, as Franklin and his team, and as Edison and his team, were studying that which had already been revealed. That which was there just needing further study and prayer. There was needed light. Jesus was soon to come. They were to be the light that lightened the world, the unfolding of God's message for these last days. The promised return of Jesus was imminent, and they were to be the light. Much of the Scriptures, much of the prophecies reveal more than is apparent from a quick read. Yeah, some century and a half ago, the prophecies of Daniel and Revelation reveal what had beforehand been regarded as secret and mysterious, and I still hear preachers even today say they're mysterious and they're secret, but they are not. This happened because by studying the reveal, they discovered a detailed series of future events. Daniel, the 2nd chapter, Daniel, the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th chapters, Revelation 10, 12, 13, 14. They set about sharing these revelations. That was the reason, that was the purpose of the Advent movement, to share what they had found. The revealed things belong to us. Why? To teach and to share. Do we know it all? Do we no longer need to study and pray and search? Can we discover no new truth? Did you know that last year an Adventist preacher, concerned about the rise of Islam and the Muslims, researched the book of Daniel and found parallels between current events in Daniel 11 and 12 that hitherto we had not known. We don't know it all. Search the Scriptures is still our admonition today. Who knows? But that future discoveries that we could make augment past revelations and add power to them. The reveal belongs to us. What shall we do with it? Shall we develop it? The secret belongs to God. Some things will only be revealed at the second coming. Inspiration tells us that to our parents in Eden, so eager to pluck from the tree of knowledge, He offered the fruit of the tree of life.
The chimes of time ring out the news. Another day is through. Someone slipped and fell. Was that someone you? You may have longed for added strength, your courage to renew. Do not be disheartened, for I bring hope to you. It is no secret what God can do. What He's done for others, He'll do for you. With arms wide open, He'll pardon you. It is no secret what God can do. There is no night, for in His light you'll never walk alone. Always feel at home wherever you may roam. There is no power can conquer you when God is on your side. Just take Him at His promise. Don't run away and hide. It is no secret what God can do. What He's done for others,